3,000 people joining in the carnival. We've had a ridiculous number of ambassadors joining and sharing the love for the Puzzle Mystery Quilt. It has been an awesome ride. So as a quick bit of introduction, for those of you that might not know anything that I'm talking about or why I'm standing here dressed like this, the Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt is a 10-month program. Each month, you get pre-cut parts and pieces and instructions on how to put them together. You sew a couple blocks, you sew a couple strips, and then you set it aside. And in the 10th month, which is today at about 2:15, everyone gets the instructions on how to put it together. And so you sew month 1 to month 4 to month 7 to whatever month together, and the puzzle comes together. And we get to see the big reveal. It's important that everyone sees it at the same time. We want to make sure that everyone gets to see the reveal and be surprised together. So that's why we do this live. And this is what a sample clue looks like. It's got pre-cut triangles, it's got scripts, it's got a single, very simple to follow, easy to follow instructions, and that's what comes to you in the mail each month. So I am going to welcome Sheila Christensen to our show. Sheila is my design partner. She reached out to me 8 years ago and said, hey, I've got this crazy idea. I've been doing this program in New Zealand. Would you like to do it in the United States? And I naively said yes. And here we are, 14 mystery quilts later, Sheila. This is our 14th show. Can you believe that? Like,
that's just amazing. It just comes around so fast, doesn't it?
I know. So Sheila is the design master behind all of it. She's the one that puts together the design. She's the one that puts all the parts and pieces and decides what's going to be in month 1 and month 2. She designs all of our instructions for us. Sheila is amazingly brilliant, and each time she ups her game a little bit more and a little bit more. Everybody, good morning Facebook, good morning YouTube, and good morning on Instagram. It is Thursday, it is 9:30, it is Cotton Cuts go time, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a great week. I'm reading the comments. It seems like it's getting warm everywhere else, and I feel like in St. Louis it's already August, even though it's just June. It's getting hot, but I am at the pool every morning at 7 a.m. with the kids for swim team, and it's really darn cold. So it is not quite hot here yet. The day they get in the pool and get out without blue lips, I will think we're officially in summer. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am like, I don't know if you guys can't see the table around, but I got just a bazooka amount of stuff to cover today with you guys. It is going to be awesome. Definitely hang out with us. Melissa Feldhaus is absolutely right. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Hit the, super excited, all the hearts, all the good things. Okay, so let's get started like we always do. So Paula, handy dandy Paula, always gives me a list of questions that have been submitted by you guys, and I get to be put on the spot and answer them here. So let's jump into them. I see there's 2 today. If you want to submit a question for our next show, go to cottoncuts.com/live, and I will answer it here. So the first question comes to us from Jana Elliott from San Francisco, California. Good morning, Jana. Thanks so much for joining us. How many yards of fabric are typically used for a single puzzle mystery quilt? Okay, so this is a good question. So, everything we do for our puzzle mystery quilt program is pre-cut. And so when we do that, we have a fair amount of what I will call waste, right? Because we're die cutting, we always have the extra parts and pieces, and we call those our snippets, which we'll come back to in a half a second here. But we always have a fair amount of waste when we cut it, versus if you were at home and you were actually cutting them efficiently, it would probably take a little less fabric. So our average mystery quilt for a large takes about 8 to 9 yards of fabric. If it was all continuous and we were cutting it on the die cutter, it consumes about 8 to 9 yards. What you actually get is less than that, obviously, because we've got all this extra. But it's about 8 to 9 yards of fabric. And it depends, right? Some designs, like those long strips that we send with the puzzle mystery quilt, that's one of those little things that we do differently, is we don't send you with the fabric strips and expect you to piece them. We actually cut them continuous. That consumes a huge amount of square inches of fabric, but we do it because it's important. And we want you guys to be able to sit and sew without having to piece those strips together. So it's about 8 to 9 yards for a large mystery quilt, but it all depends on the design. And depending on how efficient some of the shapes are, we can get more fabric out. So The right answer, Janet, is it depends, but rule of thumb, about 8 to 9 yards of fabric go into the top. That doesn't include the binding and the extra borders. Those are all, of course, extra. Okay, Janice, thanks so much for this question. That was awesome. I always love talking about our puzzle mystery quilts. All right, Heather Panowitz from Baltimore, Maryland. Could you email the clues in color? Okay, this is a question we get fairly frequently, so I'm going to kind of expand on it a little bit. So Heather is asking, can we probably get our puzzle mystery clues in color? Okay, so what this means is each month when we mail out either the pre-cut parts and pieces or we email you the clue, they always come grayscale. They always come black and white. And we have always done it this way. And we do it this way for actually a very, very specific reason. And that's because everyone's puzzle mystery quilt is a different colorway. And so if we printed them in color, it would be very confusing. Well, it might work for someone who is doing Bluebell. It would be confusing for someone who's doing Ghost Town because their fabric A might be blue for Bluebell, but in Ghost Town it's orange. And if we print those colors in blue, we're gonna confuse a lot of people along the way. And so usually when we do them in black and white, A is white and F is usually pretty close to black. And we put them on that gradient. And one of the very first things we have to tell people is that A is not going to be the lightest fabric you're using. And so we have to have those swatch cards that travel that are colorway specific. And so when we want to do them in color, it becomes challenging because then we would have to come up with a small and a large in 15 different colorways. So that's 30 different versions of the instructions. That's 30 different opportunities for error, and that's 30 times 10. So now we're 300 different clues that need to be generated, emailed. And if I'm doing more than one colorway, now I need to look at them in color. It gets very confusing when we've tried to do it other ways. So Heather, we do them in black and white because it's the most universal and it causes the least amount of confusion for a lot of folks involved. It is something though when we do special projects, like when we've done the gnomes and when we've done our mini mysteries where we're emailing the clues out, those ones we can do in color because it's all electronic and everyone's doing very similar type colorways. And so those we can do in color, but it gets, once we get into the PMQ and we have 15 different colorways and we have 2 sizes and everyone's fabric is different, it becomes very, very confusing, very, very fast. So we've taken the keep it simple, keep it very streamlined, and then that way everyone's communicating apples to apples. So we have a lot of people that sew the PMQ in groups. So we have people that participate in our bulk program where, you know, we get 10, 15, 20 people together and they're all sewing the PMQ together. Everyone's instructions are the same and it becomes very easy for people to help each other out. Also, if you're participating virtually with friends that aren't with you, everyone's instructions are the same. You're all speaking the same language. If an ambassador is sewing along, you don't have to sew their same colorway to be able to participate along with them. So it takes down a lot of barriers by keeping them into the grayscale. But Heather, thank you so much for the question. If you get stuck and you feel like you need a little extra help, definitely go to the Cotton Cuts Fabric Facebook group. People there are super happy to help you. If you get stuck, they will help interpret anything. They will help you sort. We've always got eagle eye detectives that are out there that are like, hey, this part's turned, or hey, this part's in the wrong place. People are always willing to help. So if you ever get stuck, definitely reach out to our Facebook fabric group. Thank you for the question, Heather. I appreciate it. That's awesome. All right, so those are the 2 questions I have for today. If you want to submit a question for next week, go to cottoncuts.com/live and I will answer it here for everybody. Don't forget, if you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, to give StreamYard permission. So that way, when you post a comment, we can see your name and I can, engage with you and people can engage with you after the show. Don't forget, we are going to be giving a giveaway. Just hang out with me for the duration of this show. We're going to be giving away a $25 gift card to the Cotton Cuts Fabric Shop. We are moving. We are moving in 2 months, guys. It is coming super, super, super fast. And so we're going to be doing a lot of things in our shop over the next 2 months to help minimize kind of our moving. But we're excited. We're doing space planning. It's going to be lots of fun. It's going to be a great space, and we are looking forward to it. All right. So what's happening in the shop this week? Okay, so I've got lots of stuff on the table here today. So we are going to be covering all of it. So the first thing is this month we have a new featured designer. So our featured designer is someone who we partner with for our classic and our modern maker memberships. And we give this as a platform to meet new designers that you may or may not know about. And each person that subscribes to the classic and modern maker gets a free pattern from that month's designer. This month it is Rachel Rossi from Rachel Rossi Designs. Rachel is not only a pattern designer, she is a fabric designer, and she has a new collection coming out from Burn Artect. And so she is fantastic. She's awesome. She's put together a whole bunch of patterns, which Paula, okay, just kidding. Paula is not handing me the card. Maybe we'll have the card next week. But I am actually going to be interviewing Rachel on Monday at 1:00. So if you have any questions that you want to be answered by Rachel, then definitely, put them in the comments here or join us Monday at 1:00 Central Time. I see a question from Lindsay asking if we are still staying in St. Louis. Yes, actually, Lindsay, we're only moving 2 miles away from here. So this is going to be one of those awkward moves, right? So we're moving 2 miles, which is not enough to hand carry everything, but it's almost too close to really like get the big giant truck and move it. So this is going to be a fun little challenge for our team to work out. But yes, we are definitely staying in St. Louis, Lindsay. When we move into the new space, we're actually allocating away some sides, so we might be able to have some pop-up events in the shop. So definitely stay tuned for more on that. Okay, it is a new month, gang, and so that means we have a new Cotton Cuts Cares organization. So Cotton Cuts Cares is our organization that gives back to charities and to nonprofits, really anywhere. We take suggestions from you guys, and so what we do is we give back $5 from every first-time classic, modern maker, Java, and Chroma membership. I'm going to show kind of what all of these are this month in a second. We give $5 back to this organization. This is just a way to kind of expand our reach, expand our impact, and do good in the communities around us. This month's organization is 19 Quilts for Nancy. Guys, you got to go to the website and read the story about this one. This is a woman whose daughter died tragically in a car crash, and she coped through her tragedy by making quilts. And she got to 19 quilts. That was kind of a goal. Nancy was 19 when she passed away. And then she kept going and she kept going and she got more friends to join her. You guys, this is a fantastic organization of people just positively biased to doing good. Head to the website to learn more about it. Join our Classic Modern Maker Java or Chroma Super Pop and help us continue to support organizations like this that do good in community. All right. So this month, our chroma color is yellow. This is one of my favorites because like yellow super pops. And so we've got, big spools of yellow. Boop, boop, boop. We've got the 12 weight Aurifil. And of course, we have the Eleganza Wonderful. You guys, yellow is so fun because I feel like it pops against so many colors. But yellow is our chroma color this month, which actually feeds really well into the Java because bum, bada, bum, surprise. The Java is, of course, yellow and blue, and it's called Lemonade Stand. This is our Java membership. You get 12 coordinated batiks. June is a lot of fun. I feel like, and I think I said this last week, like I would make a pool bag to go to the pool with the kids. This feels like something I want to have next to my pool chair. We also have this month's Modern Maker, you guys. This one is a Figo collection. Not a Figo, excuse me. It is Art Gallery. And so it is these lovely earthen shades of orange and brown. And we've got some dark, like olive and sage colors in here. Guys, this collection from Art Gallery is super fun. Modern Maker members will get 3 prints from this collection. They're going to coordinate. A lot of people use our Modern Maker to make whole quilts and to use it as kind of a challenge. They might get, the colors always coordinate, so they can definitely make a single project. And they use it to challenge themselves to try new things. And so this is going to be fun. These are not my colors, guys. I am a jewel tone. And so I would receive this and be a challenge. Like, what can I do to make this pretty in a color palette that is not normally one that I play in? And so this is fun. And of course, it's Art Gallery, which if you've never sewn with Art Gallery, you really should like get out there and try it. They have, their slogan is feel the difference, and it has a little bit of a shiny feel, like high-end pajama or a high-end sheet. Like this is one that you kind of want to feel to really appreciate. So Art Gallery folks are doing an awesome job in what they do. And then my favorite, the Classic membership. So the Classic is tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and we put together a different bundle. And so Paula has cut a sampling of, this is a super small portion of this month's classic boxes, but we've got some blenders this month that have metallic inlay in them. They're bright, they're shiny, they're fun. Cut them real small and they'll add just like a pop of visual interest to your quilt projects. So this is going to be our blenders for this month. All right, so that is everything that is shipping this month. Our team is blasting away to get stuff done. I wish I could like rotate the camera, like every table is full. We are trying to get as much done as we possibly can before we move. And so lots and lots and lots of activity. Speaking of activity, we shipped those Floral States of America projects on Monday this week. They're going to start arriving. I am so proud of this project. The team really did a great job at putting together all the packaging and the presentation and the instructions. And I feel like you guys are going to just love, love, love this project. You need to be following Martha's Creative Life. She is doing a whole bunch of tutorials with this program with us. And so I asked her about a year ago, I was like, hey, Martha, we're going to do this like floral states program with the 50 states, and each state's a different fabric. And she's like, I'm in. When does it start? And so it started. And so head over to Martha's Creative Life. I see she's actually with us now. So pop on over, subscribe to her channel. She's going to start putting out tutorials over the next couple weeks. And so this adventure with us, and I cannot wait to see it all come together. These cards are so much fun to put together. We are internally teaching ourselves lots of things about these states, and we can't wait for you guys to join the journey with us. Plus, there is that surprise map coloring grid in there, and we might have given you colored pencils to help you complete that, and we're going to give away prizes. It's going to be fun. All right. My gosh, there's so much stuff going on. Okay, so Tree of Life Clue 5 ships tomorrow. Actually, we're going to put them in the mail today because many of them are getting done. And so we want to get them out the door to you guys. So Clue 5 is going to start mailing to you. It'll get emailed to you tomorrow if you are a prepaid detective. And lastly, our snippet challenge has been extended by 1 week, right? There is a lot of stuff going on at the beginning of summer here. And so we want to give people an extra week to get those projects done. If you're like me, you probably procrastinated to the last minute, and maybe there's like a clue, or you're just so close to done, or you just need a sunny day for a photo. It's been raining here for a week. Maybe you need a sunny day for that photo. We extended those entries by a week, and you must be in by June 11th. And then we're going to do crowd voting. And so I have no doubt next week when I'm here, we'll be talking about going to the website and voting. And the person who gets the most peer votes voted on by you guys wins prizes. And so with that, I've got this cute, handy dandy little two pink Oliso mini iron here. These are going to be prizes for our winners in our 2 categories. This little iron is so cute. Dominic was in the shop yesterday because it's the summer, and he was testing this little puppy out, ironing some fabric. It was adorable. It was cute. Check it out. It's going to be coming as a reel very soon. But yeah, this is going to be one of the big prizes that is going to go to the people who entered the snippet challenge, including a 6-month membership of your choice to something at Cotton Cuts. So guys, totally worth it. Finish those projects. You've got a couple days. Let's get it done, and let's all be inspired together. All right. Wild West. This has been consuming a week for us, the signups. You guys, those colorways sold out so fast. We are working really hard to restock them. Use the wait list. Do not wait, because some of these colorways, once the fabric's gone, it's going to be gone. Others I can order for forever. Some of them are going to be gone for good. You are not going to want to miss out. That tumbleweed, we're cutting it off the bolt, and I am legitimately saying, like, this is really nice. This is very pretty, and I think it's gone for good, guys. So let's see. Greta's asking if the Tula irons will be available in the shop to purchase. So that is going to be a no for us. So they are actually very expensive to ship. So I'm going to encourage you to go to your local quilt shop to get that iron, just because they are so expensive to ship. And I do worry about shipping irons. I want them to work when they arrive to you. So they're going to be giveaways that we're going to use throughout kind of a couple of events. But as for stocking them in the shop, I would encourage you to go to your local quilt shop. They've started to arrive because the mini ones were a little delayed, but go to your local quilt shop, support local. And if they don't have them, ask them to get them for you. Okay, let's see here. All right, so we've got some business to attend to. So I have to give stuff away. So we're giving away 2 kind of big-ish prizes today live. And when we do this live, of course, something could potentially go wrong. But, it's the risk you take. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to give away a prize for our Minute Mystery Grand Prize winner. So every time we start up a new mystery, we play a game every day for the days leading up to it. And we ask you a challenge and we put forth kind of clues. And we might say, okay, I'm an orphan, I'm a book character, I don't use a broom to sweep, and I don't know, like I live in England. And you have to solve the mystery, put your entry in, and if you are successful all 5 days, then you are entered for a chance to win 50% off your puzzle mystery quilt Wild West. And so the metrics are like every day we had over 300 people submit entries. Guys, that's a lot that would be playing in our game every day. We had 116 perfect scores. 116 people got them right every day with no hints. And so all of those people are going to get a prize. So definitely check your email. We're going to have those emails out by the end of the day today on how to claim your prize. Everyone who gets a perfect score wins, like because that's what we do here. And so the winner will get 50% off their puzzle mystery quilt for Wild West. And so I have on my little screen over here, and I'm going to turn it around and kind of show everybody. So we're going to do like we always do. We've got this handy dandy little wheel of names, and we are going to spin it, and we're going to pick our winner. And I'm going to try and make the screen as bright as possible so everyone can see it together. And so drum roll, like if Dominic was here, he'd be drum rolling. Lou Ann Ellingson. I think I saw Lou Ann actually in here. So Lou Ann, congratulations. You have won 50% off a Wild West mystery. Our team will be in contact. Paula is going to put together a social post and tag you as well. So congratulations, Lou Ann. You have won our Minute Mystery Challenge. Super easy. Just she went in every day. She knew Corella DeVille. She knew Alfred Hitchcock. Very well done, Lou Ann. Okay, so now we have a bigger prize to give. It gets bigger than that, gang. So when we were doing our Carnival Puzzle Mystery Quilt, we launched something called a Flat Nancy. So this was inspired by, all the flat fill in the blanks that were going around at the time. And the concept is you had a really long, bright postcard. Each month when you sewed your puzzle mystery quilt, you would submit a picture online. Where were you? What was Nancy doing? Really just kind of showing to keep up, right? We like people to finish the puzzle mystery quilt. And so if you submitted all 10 months, then you would be entered to win a free Wild West puzzle mystery quilt. So if you kept up and you submitted each month, you would be entered to win a free Wild West puzzle mystery quilt. And so you guys, it has been crazy the number of people that have been participating in this. We've been giving gift cards to the shop along the way. Each month we give away 10 gift cards to everyone that participates. And so we had 13 people that submitted a photo every month online. Every month they would take a photo and they would submit it online. Even they finish these puzzle mystery quilts. And so we are going to draw the prize for the person that's going to win a free Wild West mystery. I'm hoping you guys are excited about this. These names, you guys, I'm impressed. The stories that people submit with their Flat Nancy's, oh my gosh, it's awesome and amazing. Okay, so I've got this here. We are going to spin our little wheel. And the winner of the free puzzle mystery quilt is Jamie from Huntsville, Alabama. So Jamie, congratulations. You just won a free puzzle mystery quilt because you sewed all 10 months with us. Thank you and congratulations, Jamie. We will contact you to be able to redeem your prize. Okay. All right. I think that is mercifully everything that's on my table. And now we can get to like the main topic of conversation today, and that is binding. So we're seeing a lot of people finish their puzzle mystery quilts and post the quilt tops, and they're getting quilted. And then it kind of stops from there. And I think, when it comes to that last step of binding, typically when I've made a quilt, it's kind of the part that I just dread because it's the last step. I put in all the time to make the top. I put in all the time to quilt it. And then I get to the binding and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so close to the end, but so far away. And so I was sharing binding with Paula and what it means and what it does. And she's like, this would be a fantastic topic to share with everybody. And so my journey was for probably the first 20 years I quilted. I thought binding was some advanced judo skill that I couldn't do. And so I did every quilt the way you learn to do it in home ec, which is sew, around 3 of the sides, leave an opening, turn it on the inside, get a little chopstick and poke out your corners. And that was finishing a quilt. And then you would hand stitch the opening, right? To me, that was what it meant to finish a quilt. And I thought I had to have some advanced degree to be able to bind the quilt for finishing. And I finally sat down one day and I watched a YouTube tutorial. And I am going to encourage everyone to go watch YouTube tutorials for how to do binding if you're afraid to do it. What I am going to show you today is enough to make you dangerous. So you can go to those tutorials and have enough of a background to be able to actually learn how to do binding and how to do binding in a myriad of ways. There's more than one way to do this, guys. There are 1,000 ways to do binding. But what I want to do is be able to give you just enough so when you're watching the videos, you have confidence to get through and actually start binding your quilt. And maybe today I'm going to teach you some new tips and tricks for the super seasoned binding people out there. All right, so with that, let's jump into it. So the first question that you need to answer when you're thinking about binding your quilt is, do you want to cut your binding straight of grain or bias cut? And so this is one of these things, it's almost preference. I was always taught you have to do bias cut binding, and that is terrifying to me because the difference between the two is straight of grain is you're cutting your fabric with the fabric. So you're cutting it selvage to selvage like you would if you were doing piecing. And so you're cutting it straight of grain with the weave and the fabric, and you're cutting it selvage to selvage, and then you're going to piece those together. To do bias means you actually cut the fabric at an angle and then you sew it together, and you're actually cutting your strips so that they are on the cross grain of the fabric, which for quilters, it's usually a bad thing because it means if you're cutting a lot of bias edges, it's going to stretch. But the magic is when you do bias grain for binding, it almost becomes like a finger trap and that it does not pull. And so when you put a bias cut binding on a quilt, the idea is it's not going to want to stretch over time. It's going to want to hold its shape, and it'll typically keep your finished quilt more consistent. It does require a little extra steps. It does have some waste involved with it. But if you are super comfortable at the end of like this cutting and putting it on the bias, and I just watched a YouTube video or a TikTok this week where someone like made a tube and like within like the magic of this TikTok had like 150 inches long of binding. If you want to give that a whirl, more power to you. But really the only difference between the two is you're cutting it either straight of grain or you're cutting it on the bias. The bias might be stronger because it won't stretch and pull. But guys, I've never done bias binding, and I've actually never had a project wear out over time. I think it's one of these things that, I have a lot of quilts that are meant to be loved, meant to be washed, meant to be worn. I think if we're making quilts to last 150 years past all of our life, then bias will probably last a little longer. But I think it really depends on, what makes you happy. I see Martha likes bias better. Let's see here. Catherine looks like she likes to do binding. So guys, I would reply to Catherine and have her do all of your binding if this is not your jam. Okay. Let's see here. Martha, yeah, it always hesitate when it comes to the binding. So the first question you need to decide is if you're doing bias or if you're doing straight of grain. Guys, everyone has a passion and an opinion, and I see people saying bias only. I've never done bias and my quilts are a-okay, but I know how to do bias if I feel like it's a project that is worth it. I think if I do handbags, that might be something that it might be worth it to do a bias binding because they are going to be handled more. They are, yeah, Diane is absolutely right. It has a longer wear life. If it's something that I'm going to be handling and doing a lot of frequent work with or washing frequently, that's another one. If you feel like you're going to wash it more frequently, bias binding is the way to go. Now, one of the very first mistakes that I was making when I started out doing binding was how I pieced my edges together. So I'm hoping nobody is buying like a 200-inch long piece of fabric and cutting one continuous strip of binding out of it. Hopefully we're piecing them all together. And when I was first out, because again, I didn't know any better and no one taught me any better, is that I used to piece my binding together like this. So I would take 5 or 6 strips, whatever it took, and I would just, because this is easy, guys, right? Like this is how you piece a quilt, is you just put the pieces together like so. Well, let me show you kind of why we don't do that. And so because you're going to take and sew the pieces together, and then you're going to fold them in half to actually make your binding. What you've done is you've created a really thick piece of fabric that has like 6 layers altogether. And that's going to be really thick to sew through. And so you don't want all this bulk in one place. And so, right, this will work, to be clear. This will work. This is not the end of your quilt. This, if you piece your strips together this way, this is definitely going to work. But there is a slightly better way, and that is actually to sew your pieces together on an angle. Let me show you what it looks like. So when you take your strips, you're actually, it's hard to see. I should have used, I'm sorry guys, I should have probably used a yellow thread for this. But you're actually going to sew corner to corner on this piece here. And then when you open it up, you've distributed the bulk of that seam throughout the length of your binding strip, right? And so you're going to obviously cut this off the back. And so that way, when I take this piece here and I fold it in half, I've actually put the length of that seam over about a 2-inch piece. And so it's a little less to sew through, guys. This is one of these things that, I mean, if you're not doing this, that's a-okay. Try it. And just when you're sewing through it with your walking quilt, you will probably notice a difference. Your needle's not going to get stuck sewing 14 times in a single seam. Not that that's ever happened to me, guys. Just kidding. Like it's your needle is not going to get stuck. Your presser foot's not going to get stuck going over this bulk of fabric. Yeah, Martha, I've definitely done both. I feel like this kind of just is my go-to now, is this kind of angle seam and this angle sewing. Okay, so once you've gotten your strips together, then you're going to iron them in half. And so this is the part that for me is, oh yeah, Jana Elliott. So I've been with you. Like I will chain piece a bunch together. When you open it up, you realize you kind of sewed them wonky and you just made a 90-degree the wrong way. That happens to me all the time. It's fine. That's why we have seam rippers and you just fix it and you keep going. So then what you're going to do is once you have, your long piece, and we get asked, how long should that piece be? So this is where your high school geometry comes back. So you're going to measure your length and your width. You're going to get your total perimeter of your finished quilt, and you're going to add about 8 to 10 inches to it. And that's what you want your total length to be. I always just keep it easy and do my width of fabric pieces, and then I trim it at the end because I don't want to have to be off by an inch or two if my math is wrong, or I've been, sewing at night with some wine. So I want to make sure that, because binding is hard to fix after you've already sewn it on your quilt. All right, so once you've got those pieces together, what you're going to do is you actually iron them in half like so. And so there's a lot of gadgets that'll do this for you, where you take that piece and you kind of pull it through and you iron it. But it doesn't have to be super perfect, guys. You're just folding it in half and you are ironing it. And this is one of the few times in quilting where you're going to press your wrong sides together. I know we are so used to right sides together, stitch and then press. This is one where you want the pretty side facing out for your binding. And so, this is one like I have to like pull it, and having a good long ironing board helps with this. And then I'm usually a big fan of kind of like taking about 6 to 8 inches and accordion folding it over each other. And so that way, when my binding is done, it'll be thicker than this. They make handy dandy little binding buddies. These were popular at market about 6 years ago. And there was a little spool and you would wind your binding around it. And so then that way, when you're sewing it on, you can kind of unroll it and keep it all nice and tidy. I'm a big fan of this. This usually works. I'll probably get a binder clip out and kind of piece it together just so that way my binding stays pressed and together. Okay. The next part is once you have your binding for your full perimeter done, the next big decision you have to make is, do you want to piece it onto the front of your quilt and then flip it over to the back for the second stitch? Or do you want to start on the back and flip it over to the front? Most people, that first decision, do I stitch it onto the front and flip it onto the back, or the back and flip it onto the front, is done by a machine with a walking foot. I think there's probably some people that would hand stitch that first bit, but most people, when you see the tutorials, are going to machine stitch that first bit. And so I have a little cardboard example. And so it's front. I think on Instagram, it might be backwards, guys. So front. And so what you're going to do is you want to make sure that the raw edges of your binding are aligned with the raw edges of your quilt. And you're going to do just either a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch seam allowance, depending on your preference. And you're going to stitch it right to the edge of the quilt. And then you're going to flip it over to the back, right? That's if you want kind of this piece here on the front of your quilt and you flip it over to the back. You could alternatively start by stitching it onto the back of your quilt and then flipping it over to the front. All right, so let's talk about you're going to see both of these techniques in YouTube tutorials. And so the really comes down to kind of where do you want your thread and your color to finish. I've seen tutorials that have done it this way, have done it from the front to the back, to the back to the front. It really, it depends, like trying a couple different methods. The first way that I learned how to do binding was to sew it onto the front and then flip it onto the back. That was the first tutorial that I did. Now, when you get that first stitch done and you go all the way around, those two raw edges are going to come together. And that is one that there's like 75,000 different ways to connect those two raw edges together. And I even watch TikTok videos that are like voodoo, right? Like they like flip, switch, bam, done, and they're connected and they're the exact length. I find it hard because you have to measure like the way that I learned how to do it was measure 2¼ inches, overlap them, twist them, stitch it together, pop it open, and hope and pray that it works together. I'm going to let you guys watch some YouTube videos on how to do that because it is something that is better seen than explained. But ultimately, you want your two edges to come together cleanly, evenly, without a lot of excess bulk. And there are a lot of visuals on how to do that. Okay, so once you have the binding, the first stitch all the way around, these little gadgets are what I use to keep it in place. So I use these little wonder clips. These are popular. They were once new. They are now kind of a commodity. They're everywhere. And these clips are perfect for binding because they have kind of a little hump, right? And so that little hump helps absorb the thickness of your binding here on the front side of your quilt and hold it to the back. There are, I mean, if money is an issue and these clips are too expensive, binder clips have worked in a pinch. They do this job really well to hold the front to the back. I've even been known to use kind of hair clips from my nieces and things that I just have lying around. Hair clips work here as well. Basically, you just want to hold it from one side to the other. Modern thoughts is you could actually use Elmer's school glue and glue it around to the back of your quilt. Guys, I've never done this. It kind of scares me a little bit. I know a lot of people swear by just running a strip of Elmer's school glue here and just piecing it and holding it back. And they say it washes out in the wash. If you've done that, please comment and share your experience with us. Did it go as well as the TikTokers say it should, or was it a little bit of a disaster? Okay. Right. So once it gets over to the other side, be it the front or back of your quilt, then you have another choice. So do you want to hand stitch it from here, or do you want to try and machine stitch it? And so purists will hand stitch this, right? And I've done that before. If I am binge watching like Bridgerton or another kind of show and I'm just sitting in front of the TV, I'll hand stitch that. And you're just doing a chain stitch. You're just stitching this to the front, to the back layer of your fabric. And in that way, all of your seams are currently hidden. And this is kind of the like at the end, you're putting in the final stitches of your quilt and you have a lot of pride in it. And so this is the hand stitching action. A lot of people do this. This is kind of the traditional way is to hand stitch it on either the front or the back. Most people will hand stitch on the back as well. What the way that I've learned how to do it the first time and I have changed is that I come back to the front and I use a walking foot and I stitch right into this little ditch here. And I use coordinating thread on the front and the back. And it was intended such that when the back side is here, I would catch it and then my quilt would be binded. And I know that a lot of people have been commenting about how they've done this. And so you actually just stitch right along your binding here and you catch it on the back. And it works like 97% of the time. And for me and my first couple quilts, it was great. What would happen is occasionally this would slip. And you can see I'm kind of stretching it a little bit for the purpose of the camera. And when I stitched here, I would miss a certain section. And so in that case, I would just have to go back and re-sew that section again, which is fine, right? That works for a lot of people, guys. The way that I've started doing it now, though, is I actually stitch it on the back and then I flip it over to the front. And I top stitch right along the edge of this here. And then I don't miss it. and everything is completely sewn to my quilt. And so since this is on the back, if this stitch, and because it's me, and if it like zigs and zags and wavers and wanders, it's okay because it's the back of the quilt. And as long as I pick a thread that matches this fabric, in this case cardboard color, then you won't see it. And so this is my preferred method for binding, is sewing on the back, flipping it over, and then top stitching right along the edge here. Right, that's how I have been. I think I might have lost Instagram. Hold on just one second. Okay, so that is how I have been binding my quilts, is just stitching right across the top here and then letting the seam show into the back. Now, the one piece that we haven't talked about is the infamous and elusive mitered corner, right? And so as I'm sewing along, like this is easy, right? I just sew along and then I get to the corner. Bum, ba, bum. All right. So this is one of these things. I'm going to let you guys look for mitered corners on YouTube. And so ultimately, as you get to this corner, you're stitching along, boo, 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 boo. You can't just, you can, to be clear, you can really do anything. It is your quilt. But if you turn it to the side, and to be clear, I've done this many, many, many times. If I was to just turn this, guess what, guys? I'm going to end up stitching over that, and it is going to be a mess. And so a mitered corner is one where you actually turn the corner so that when it flips out, it you get this in an ideal TikTok world, you get kind of a seam that goes around your corner. This takes a lot of practice, guys. If it matters to you and it's important that you have that mitered corner, you need to make sure that you watch the YouTube and you practice it and you try it. The one variable to all of this is the thickness of your quilts. So the first quilts I used to make had a polyester 3-inch loft binding. These little bindings, this 2.5 inch, would never make it around. And so my first bindings, I used to have to do 3 inches and more. You want to make sure that you're going completely over all the edges. Otherwise, why are we doing this? And so when you're calculating up your binding, you want to make sure you make it all the way around and everything is encapsulated so nothing falls apart on this project that you've spent a ridiculous number of hours working on. Okay, that's enough to make you guys dangerous. So I hope you guys get to go out and watch some videos and have enough to be able to kind of extrapolate what you're seeing into what you're making. I am still learning. I've been doing binding, both hand sewn and machine sewn, for about 15 years. And like I said, just this week, I saw a TikTok video that blew my mind, and maybe I'm going to change something because we're always learning and we're always doing things better. So the question to win our $25 gift card this week is, what are your favorite techniques or tips for achieving perfectly mitered corners when binding a quilt? Or I'm going to add to this question. So mitered corners, or how do you join your two pieces when you're binding a quilt? If you could leave us tips and tricks, we're going to pick one lucky person who's going to get a $25 gift card to our shop. It's really easy, guys. Most of you are doing it already. Find this video on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and just leave us a comment on how you either get a mitered corner or how you get those two raw edges to line up. And we'll pick someone to win a gift card. All right, quick reminders before we go. Signups for Wild West are ongoing. You are going to want to get on this train, guys. It's a runaway train. I might as well go with the theme this week. It's going to be a runaway train. Get on the train. It is going awesome places. Snippet Challenge entries are due June 11th. You have 5 days. 5 days. And to win prizes. And then Floral States is still available. And join Martha. I've seen a lot of people are doing that. So fantastic. When are we doing another live tutorial? Jan is asked. So I think with Dominic in the shop, he's going to be doing some tutorials. I think Martha is also doing a lot of tutorials as well. So Jan, there's a lot of content out there. Our ambassadors are also putting out. I saw Becca just did a video yesterday about starching. So if you are in our Cotton Cuts Fabric Facebook group, our ambassadors are putting out great content. We have Dominic, the boy who sews, is going to be sewing all summer for us. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. With that, I will let everyone go. Have a great rest of your week. Hopefully you guys get some fun and some sun and some warmth this week, and we will see you next week at 9:30. Oh, and also Monday at 1 o'clock as we interview our featured designer. Thank you guys. Have a great week, and we will talk soon. Bye now.